Hi, I'm Paul Tranny, and this week on Make It, I'm really excited to be joined by Brett Lovelady and Alejandro Chavetta, both from Astro Studios. The studio does amazing work that you've probably seen, but what I love about these guys is they know what it takes to be a successful designer that goes beyond just pushing pixels. All right, here we are, guys. Brett, nice to meet you. Alejandro, it's a pleasure. Awesome. Brett, you're founder of Astro Studios, as well as CEO.
Chief Instigator.
A Chief Instigating Officer. I kind of like that for CIO. Sure. But you're the troublemaker of the group, is that what I'm sensing?
I don't know. Start it all up.
I dig it. And then Alejandro, Creative Director?
Creative Director on the brand side.
Brand side, awesome. So I think this is super fun having you guys here. I know we have stuff to show and all sorts of things, and you guys have a history. We're here in the Bay Area, but a history in the tech industry. When did Astro Studios start? Can you kind of tell us that?
Sure. So I started Astro Studios in 1994 in Palo Alto. And then over a series of different projects and expansions, we moved to San Francisco about 8 years later, so 2002.
94.
Yeah.
Did you think the internet was a fad at the time? You're like, yeah, it probably won't go anywhere.
Yeah, we met the the Yahoo guys and like some crazy kids from Stanford.
What is was that Yahoo? What's that even mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, and Alejandro, I know you have been a designer for how many years now?
15, 17 years doing design work. I started in publishing, and then I moved into tech and brands. And I was looking for a new adventure, and I met Brett, and I started working at Astro almost 2 years ago.
What does it take as a designer to even last through these technology phases? What quality would you need as a designer to have a job at Astro Studios?
I think, beyond the skill set and the personality is sort of the natural curiosity to become as immersed in what your client needs, what the demographic that you're designing for needs, and try to understand what it takes to get a good perspective on who you're designing for, and that before you even start the design work. And then you can apply those amazing skills and technologies that we have today. But all of that plays into formulating a point of view, which is what I think fundamentally we're paid to do. All the other things are just nice artifacts. Yeah,
and that's so interesting, like formulating a point of view, like as a designer, you could get paid kind of for your opinion, right?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things we became kind of addicted to as designers is the diversity of skills on one hand, but then the diversity of industries that we can actually approach with those skills. Because design principles can really be applied across the board.
Yeah.
And then designers are naturally promiscuous, so they want to chase everything that, that looks
I've
good.
never heard that said, and it totally works. It's good, well said.
But I think that's what makes designers better. Like, what we do is we work with a lot of different people, but because of our size, we get really close to the center of projects, so we become really, really knowledgeable on the specific subjects. And that's something that, designers grow really quickly by doing. So if you work in a place that is really big, sometimes you don't get too close to the center, or you don't get too close to the people that are responsible, the stakeholders.
Become very specialized, right? Yeah, like the cross-pollinating from one industry to the next, or one project or material, or, understanding, where you're not really cloning that. You're actually like, oh, I learned something over here that now I can take that knowledge and sort of recraft it and repurpose it in a whole different industry for a whole different purpose.
I want to dive in. I know you have some things on the table here. Can we just kind of take a look as a visual designer? Yep. We got something in a little box here. What is this? Tell me about this.
This is a project we're working on for a little over 2 years with Link AKC. They are spun up from the AKC, the American Kennel Club. And they wanted to launch a dog wearable, and they approached Astro to do the industrial design, but it evolved not only from the industrial design and positioning to brand naming, brand strategy, all the way into brand identity, communication, and advertising.
A dog wearable. Is that what I heard?
Think of it like a glorified Fitbit for dogs. But
cool.
That's where it started, and the fun thing is it really became sort of the center of a whole social network for dogs. And so as time went on, we're like, oh, you need a name, you need a brand position, and on and on. Alejandro and his team have done animations and advertising and video work as well beyond just the product design work.
Is this like a pedometer, or does it tweet? Does my dog tweet?
No, not quite like that. No, it measures heat, activity, and location. It's a GPS-enabled device. So it's really smart. It comes with an app, so you can track your dog's behavior and temperature as well as location.
At the same time, we didn't want to like replace your favorite dog collar. It comes with a complete leather collar, but if you got your favorite one, favorite colors, it's got I don't know, their name embroidered on it or something.
Yeah.
People are very specific about what they want their animals to have. This piece removed, so you can charge it up. You can take this off, or you can leave it on, for long periods of time. The fun thing about it is there's a service that comes along with it, so you can actually track your dog's activity. You can understand what they're doing day and night. It'll give you, a good sense of how much really real estate your dog even covers in a day, for example. And so as a product, this was sort of, again, that anchor for them to then go, oh, how can we trade more information? What other types of products might we offer? And then sort of really commercialize a whole social network for the animals.
Did you come to them as in, hey, you need some branding around this? Is that how that happened?
As product designers, the reason we've always had brand communication is because we're there about a year before that usually happens. But as you get in with a startup or a new company, you realize you're developing the product. They're going to need brand positioning, identities, packaging strategy, a digital strategy. All those things start to unfold. So we said, well, why don't we have this expertise in-house to put everything that we're designing into full commercialized context? So we don't think about it necessarily as designing products anymore. It's really designing properties. And it's only getting bigger when all of a sudden every hardware product has to have an app. You've got to have a digital presence. You've got to have a retail strategy, a direct-to-consumer strategy, and figuring out which thing comes first.
Yeah.
So it just made sense for us to expand our brand communication team, which Alejandro has came in and sort of expanded for us as well.
The cool thing about this project also is that we were able to see their needs as we were building this product. We have the experience to look down the road. We know what's coming up. So we can tell our clients, their partners now, say, hey, we know that this is going to happen. Let's start thinking about this. And they're like, oh, wow, thank you. So we begin to engage with them ahead of time, because we know you're going to need photography, you're going to need illustrations. Where does that live? It lives on a website. Okay, we need to plan a web strategy for you. Then advertising comes after that. So we're able to be there for them, and we became really, really close with this client. They're really amazing people. And now it's one of my favorite relationships because we trust each other so much that we make decisions fairly quickly, and that's something that is the virtue of being working with them for so long. We have this level of trust that is really special.
Yeah, because you even called them partners, and that might be a different relationship, but I like that term in general.
That's how we actually, especially with startups, a lot of times they don't have the capability or the desire to develop a whole design and brand team. So in parallel, maybe over a 2 or 3 year period, they'll start to build their team out while we either diminish or help them expand.
Is it a good idea for me as a solo designer to get started and hooked up with maybe a startup? Any pitfalls I need to be concerned about there?
Sure. The first part of your question is yes. It's a great place to learn all the different disciplines that have to come together to make anything happen.
Yeah.
And rarely is it any one. So as an independent designer, you're going to learn a little of a lot quickly.
Yeah.
The pitfalls might be you want to make sure that they're well funded.
Yeah, they're paying your bills kind of at the end of the day. Again,
it
could be a huge payout, because if they're doing well, then you're
It sort of depends on how you set it up. Let me give you an example. About 20% of our business from the very onset of Astro has been set aside to do equity-based programs. So we're basically putting our creative capital in line with venture capital, and quite often taking a position in the company. So then we become investors, not just designers.
So what is your opinion on these sort of, design-centric or design-led companies?
I'm a huge advocate. In fact, over the years, it's been really nice to see design moving up in organizations to now, I absolutely believe it should be part of the C-suite in any new company. A CDO, Chief Design Officer, Chief Creative Officer.
Chief Design Officer.
So having design and vision, working with the CEO to bring their ideas to life, as well as all the other disciplines. Design's sort of the clearinghouse of a lot of those things. So design-led is the only next step above, and we see that a lot now where CEOs are actually coming in with design backgrounds. And a lot of those companies are having great success.
This has to be fun to work on this stuff.
It's great. It's not only the work that we do for Astro as communication pieces, but also working in all these different projects. I feel like for me as a designer, it has been amazing to be there, because we work on from industrial design to brand to communications. It's a lot of fun, and the different types of people that we work with, it's incredible. We work for really large companies to startups, and that's sort of the beautiful part of a studio like our size, is that you get to see a lot of different people, and you get to learn a lot.
And you guys are at, about 30 people-ish?
Yeah, day in and day out. That's on purpose. my experience has been once you get past 30 or 40 people, creative firms sort of become more like law offices and billable hours and tiering of different types of associates and things. We're pretty flat organizationally, and we just love to empower the creativity of our design teams. So we have multiple creative directors, much like a movie studio. You know, it's like if you're, you need a great storyline and a great director, and then a lot of people to come together quickly and make that a real property. So that's sort of the model we pursue. And sometimes, like our directors, Alejandro is a good example. We'll have 3 or 4 or more projects going on with, a whole range of different creative people that come together at different parts of the process. But his end goal is to have a vision and take that through the process.
I like that. I mean, it seems like a good size, good fit for what you're trying to do. Do you think there's anything like missing that designers need in their quote unquote like toolbox? And I don't mean technical stuff.
For me, it starts out with, we still have to have a great portfolio. We've got to see that whatever was in your mind has been manifested into beautiful work. And then we can look at that and go, yeah, we can benefit from that in our world. That's usually, and hopefully it's complementary, not just redundant.
Yeah.
So, we look for that spark in our portfolio. Immediately and on parallel, we look for the personality. So the personality's got to be a good fit. The third part of that is sort of the intangible, right? Are they bringing something that none of us have? Do they have a background? What do they do in their personal life that brings a lot to the table? Or what is their ethnicity, their gender, their experience level? Things that are really important to when you're designing for a wide variety of people.
Because you want it to be diverse.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that plays into the mix. Also, not to be designing for design's sake. A lot of designers will sit in sort of the tower and just do it over and over, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, go out and live life and bring that back to the studio.
And so, Alejandro, as a creative director, communicating ideas, I think, is what you do a lot.
Yeah, that's the bulk of it. I would say, we were talking about earlier about a point of view. We don't design until there's a point of view. Like, that's what we're, good at. And a lot of people think that it's just like putting pen to paper or pushing pixels. That's, that what you do all the time. But you have to develop a point of view. And one of the skills that I think is paramount for designers is to be able to communicate properly, not only verbally, because in our setting, like, they do get a seat at the table. So they have to be able to communicate with clients. The other thing is writing. A lot of the times people come through the door and their writing skills are not that great. But I think that every designer should be a good writer. You should be able to write what is it you're going to do and convey it to the client.
At the end of the day, you're communicating. I know we're in visual communication, but we're communicating. We're sometimes using pictures, but we're definitely like using words. That's so good.
Well, it's like the Link project we were talking about. My favorite part of the whole project is the tagline, which is, do you speak dog? And that just sort of set the tone for like the whole relationship across everything we were doing. But it came down to just 4 words.
I know you have another little project that I totally want to see, like this little thing right over here.
Sure.
Can we kind of? Yeah, I'll grab it.
All right.
One might be missing.
Yeah.
I don't know where it went. I'm kidding. These are gorgeous watches, and I want one.
We have a little bit of history in watches. We've designed all of Nike's original watches back in the early 2000s. So about 4 years ago, we came up with the concept for -8 watches. And this is actually a company that we launched a couple of years ago with a partner to basically develop and deliver a whole brand of watches based on some different manufacturing techniques as well as a point of view. -8, for those that don't know, is the time zone we live in. It's GMT -8, so it's the West Coast time zone.
Nice.
So heavily influenced by the love of great, beautiful machines and this sort of a West Coast ethos, if you will, around design. What for us is most beneficial is we get a lot of empathy for what our clients go through. Like, we know so much more about what it takes to deliver products to consumers, customer service, logistics, all the heavy lifting, right? Well past the design.
This sort of thing is what any designer would love to do.
Well, and like any project can turn into this. This is sort of like believing if you do something good, it could become this. And this is now, like at Astro, is like our sort of second job. Like, we manage the brand, even down to advertising campaigns and like Facebook ads. We know what it takes to put that stuff together.
Yeah.
The fact is that we can design and develop and deliver products so much easier now than we could have 10 or 15 years ago. The tools out there are set up for designers to take their ideas, commercialize them in ways that they really could only dream of before.
I was going to ask you if you had a particular favorite in here.
Probably this one, just because it's maybe easier to see. So this is the first of the series, and this was the first time that a watch had been made this way, which is essentially with layers of material that stack up and allow us to create a very diverse lineup around the same form factor. We call this sort of our arena effect. this is our layer series, and it's sort of what started the whole thing. We essentially came up with an idea. One of our designers did that, we brought to life as a concept. We shared that with the world. It's also kind of falls in those categories. Most designers want to, to design a watch, design a bag, design a chair, design a lamp.
Yes,
it's like you got to check the boxes. So watches is one of those amazing products that transcends sort of a lot of other categories.
Oh, so fun.
That's a plus of working at a place like Astro. Like if you have a good idea, it could turn into something.
Definitely a team dynamic at Astro.
That's awesome. Well, do you guys have any closing words, and it might touch upon something we've already talked about, for designers out there that are trying to make it maybe as a graphic designer?
Continue to challenge themselves with new tools, experiment with new mediums and materials constantly, and then don't be afraid to bring those out and in any project that seems appropriate. Okay. And then I guess the last thing is stay very curious.
Make sure that when you show your work, it's done in a way that is unique to you. It's really nice to see someone come in, walk through the door, and tell us a story about themselves. It's really, really a huge difference, because that's what we do. We help companies tell the story about their products, their brands. That's what we want. We want someone who can sell their work and themselves.
Well, thank you so much, Brett. Alejandro, thank you so much for being here. I think it's been fantastic seeing your work and being inspired by you. So thank you so much. Everybody, tune in every week as we interview and get to meet with more awesome artists.